Okay, in the previous video, we created an agenda in a text editor box, but in this video, we're going to talk about using the agenda box, which is its own special type of box, to create an agenda. So I'm going to delete this box over here. This is our notes box, and to do that, I'm just clicking on our options drop down, and then going down here to the delete button. Yes, delete. So to add an agenda box or any other type of box, we're going to go to our launch button, click add content box, and then we're going to select the agenda box option. So when you first add it, this is what it looks like. And you'll see it's got our options open, and this little button over here is glowing, telling us we need to do something. And this is where you're going to edit the agenda to add items to it. So we're going to click that button, and we're presented with this box. So this is where we can set up our agenda. And so you can call it something else if you want to. For example, um, we'll call this Monday agenda. Why not? Um, and I like doing the little colon there. So we'll do that. You can select a start time. And so what this does is it will automatically start your agenda at whatever time you put in. And I'll show you what I mean by start the agenda here in just a second, because this is a fancy agenda, not just a text editor box agenda. So let's go ahead and add some items to our agenda. We're not going to mess with our fonts and font colors and all that, but you can if you want to. I might go back and show that here in just a minute. So we're going to start by adding a step. And so let's add a step, and we're not going to get crazy with these. We're just going to call them steps right now. But for example, it might be bell work, or um, if you're in a music class, warm up or something like that. So there's our step number one. And let's say we want it to last for uh, 2 minutes. We're going to spend 2 minutes on step number one. Um, we're going to add another step, and step number two. And that one's going to last for 5 minutes. Notice as we're adding time here, our total duration is adding up down here. So we've got a 2 minute step and a 5 minute step. So we're at 7 total minutes. So that's just an easy way to keep up with how much of your class time you've used and you've scheduled for. Let's go ahead and add another step. So step three, sure. And we'll just say this one's going to be 30 seconds, because why not? Let me go ahead and type that in there. 30 seconds. So now we have 7.5 minutes worth of stuff to do here on Monday. So I'm going to click save just to show you what this looks like. All right. So here's our agenda. And we've got our step one, our step number two, and our step number three. So earlier when I said if you set a start time, it'll automatically start at that time, this is what I mean. I'm going to go down here and I'm going to click the manual start button. And this is, if you don't want to put in a start time and you want to start it manually, you would click right here. And you'll see that now our step number one is progressing, and then we had set it for 2 minutes, so it's going to count down to 2 minutes. At the end of our 2 minutes, it would go ahead and progress to step number two. Now, you can also start manually from a step by just clicking on that step. So for example, if I click here, oops, click twice, we are now starting directly on step number two. So it's going to count down our 5 minutes, and then it would go to step number three. By the way, once a step is completed, it will add a nice little checkbox to that step to let you know that you've completed it. So that is how that works. Let's go back to our edit button here, and I'm going to show you just a few more things. First of all, right here you'll see you can add a resource, and this is going to expand here soon, but for right now you can add a link to a resource. So for example, let's say we had a YouTube video and we wanted to put in that YouTube video. Right now I'm just going to put in youtube.com, but theoretically you could link to the actual video. We'd click add link. Let's save that, and now you'll see we have next to our step number 1, we've got this little icon. And so if we click that, it would open up YouTube. All right, now I'm not going to do that right now, but that's how that works. And if you'll see here, there's other things coming in the future. For example, this resource button. Um, that would be something that you've actually uploaded, for example, maybe a PDF or an image or something. Um, and soon I'm also going to add the ability to link to another box. So that way, when you click on that link button, it'll actually open up a different type of content box that you've created for that class. Let's also quickly show the add substep option. And so notice when I clicked that, our times over here went away. All right, and that's because they're no longer in use, because our total step here is going to be made up of the duration of our sub steps. So we'll call this sub step number 1, and we'll put a duration of 1 minute there. So you noticed our duration up here changed when I did that, because now our step duration is a total of 1 minute, because we only have one sub step in that step, and that lasts for 1 minute. So let's just go ahead and add another one so you can see a little bit more how this works. Sub step number 2, and we'll make that one 2 minutes long. So now you'll see we have 3 total minutes up here for this step. 1 plus 2 is 3. And down below, we should have 8.5 minutes, because we have a total of 3 minutes here, 5 minutes for our second step, and then we've got our 30 seconds here. So I'll save that. And you can see what those look like. You'll see they just look like substeps should look. And same thing here. We'll go ahead and start it just so you can see what it looks like. So you'll see the whole step is highlighted. And so we've got our time for our total step going here, which was 3 minutes total. Our substep number 1 is counting down our 1 minute for it. And then once substep number 1 is done, it'll move on to substep number 2, which was we set for 2 minutes. So I'll stop that. A few other things you can do when you edit it here. Let's say we got these in reverse and we wanted to reorder them. Well, you can use these little arrows here to do that. So now our step number 2, which in this case doesn't make a whole lot of sense since we labeled it step number 2, is number 1. And so you can quickly move items around that way. And if you need to delete an item, you can just click this button and it'll delete. So now we'll just do that, and there we go. So real quickly, I just want to show you what this looks like with the actual, with the check marks and all that. So I'll quickly change the times of these. So now these are all going to be 8 seconds each, 24 seconds total. So we'll save our really quick class today. So we'll click our manual start button here. And so you'll see very quickly going through substep number 1, and it's going to complete. So we've got our little check mark, and now we're going into our substep number 2. And finally, we're moving on to our step number 2. So that's how that works. Some other buttons here that you have. Some of these buttons I'll explain in a later video, but 2 of them here, this bigger and smaller, depending on your how long of text you have for each of these steps, it can be nice to just make it bigger. And so that's just a quick way to make everything look bigger if it's too big, or if you've got longer text for each step, then you can make it smaller. All right, so that is the agenda box.